All right, so this is Grand Havoc. This is the Battle of Perryville from the Revolution Games Blind Swords series of American Civil War games. I've just finished the third turn, and the start of the fourth turn. It is definitely Havoc. I think that's a good title for this. If you don't know anything about the Battle of Perryville historically, this is an interesting battle in that essentially more than half of the Union Army sat out most of the battle. They're all sitting over here. They have no idea that there's a battle going on with the First Corps and most of the Confederate Army. And there's something, the game sort of replicates this by having something, down here, called the Buell Alert Track. So the Union general in command was Don Carlos Buell. He was not aware that this battle was going on, and the courier that was supposed to tell him didn't find him. And something called acoustic shadows apparently prevented the bulk of the Union forces from actually hearing the battle, which was like not even a mile away. I mean, I forget what the scale is of this battlefield off the top of my head, but I mean, this is within like artillery range of being able to see each other. So, this distance here, basically. But all these guys over here are on hold, and they're not released until Buell gets over here to the Buell commits column. And even then, you're only activating one on-hold brigade per turn. So as you can see, there's like 4 or 5 brigades, more than that actually, like six brigades. 2, 3, 4, like 7, actually 8 if you include these guys. These guys were able to move over because there is one of the activation chits that allows for activation of any brigade, including on-hold brigades. And I forget which chit it is off the top of my head. It's not one of the ones that's sitting out, so it must currently be in the cup. It is a chit draw game, so you can see there's chits in my Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania mug. So activation is done through chit draw. It comes with the game comes with these little handy activation displays. So whenever you draw the appropriate division, you can place the counter here and then decide which of these brigades in that division you're going to activate. And once you've activated it, you flip it over. If there's brigades left that can be activated, then you take the divisional thing and throw it back in the cup, and you can draw it again until you've activated all of the appropriate brigades. And then there's one for the Union one, and you can see the only chits that are actually on there to activate right now are the First Corps. All these other units, except for the independent command here, are on hold. So either they're off the board as reinforcements. I think, no, somewhere, yeah, over here, guys can come on as reinforcements, but the rest of these guys just sit here until they're released by the Buell track. You can see I have advanced Buell along here. He actually only advanced once on the track, but I advanced him again because I realized I made a mistake when I was playing and forgot that every time you draw a divisional command chit, you have to roll a die to see if the brigade that you're activating can do anything, can do either a full orders or just limited orders. So completely forgot about that, which obviously, there's probably a couple times on those first 3 turns that these guys would have only gotten limited activation, and so wouldn't have been able to, fully attack, which is what I've been doing, just pressing the hell out of the Union. Although that hasn't worked very well for the Confederates. You can see the Union has managed to hang on to really the key position of the early part of the battle, which is Starkweather Hill here. my attacks with the Confederates, while in game terms probably shouldn't have been as thorough as they were, given that I probably would have had at least a few limited activations for some of these brigades over the first 3 turns. And the first 2 turns, I believe the Confederates have a bonus to their activation rolls, so, or would have had I been doing it. So, you know, I mean, they should be able to attack. I mean, these are 4, 4, and 3. So, you know, Buckner's the weak link there, but he would have been needed to only roll a 4 or less on the first 2 turns to activate. So they probably most of the time would have activated. You know, there's times that the Union guys also wouldn't have been able to activate. So, but I decided to just advance the Buell track once just to give, since the Confederates had sort of an unfair advantage because there are a lot more of their brigades that are available to activate, and a lot fewer Union brigades that can activate. However, you can see there's a number of shaken units out here in the Union ranks. The Union left flank is pretty weak. There's some big units, but they're using antique muskets that are basically have their firepower, and they're very low morale. You can see there's a number of 1s in the cohesion rankings here for Webster and Terrell's, mostly Webster's brigade, but Terrell's got some low ones too. There's 2s there. There's a couple of, like these guys, the 98th Ohio, they are a 1, which is not great, but at least they have rifles, which means that they've been able to, their firepower has been useful, whereas the firepower, you know, he's got rifles. Some of these guys somewhere here. Yeah, like that's a 15 size unit, but it's got antique rifles, so he's firing at a 7. So the only guys with any real firepower over here are these guys, and they have actually severely torn up Maney's brigade here for the Confederates. And you can see there's a number of those guys on the broken track. They just kind of got wrecked by the guns here, as well as they tried to flank this artillery position, and charging the artillery was not really a great idea. So this artillery redoubt has held out here for the Union, and I'm in the process now of trying to reorganize and then trying to get Donelson's brigade together, because they can try and do a main assault on this left flank, and should be able to, given that there's some units that are already shaken and disrupted and reduced, should be able to break this weak flank of the Union over here. The question is, can they do that before Buell starts activating held brigades over here? So the Union center is in a little better shape. I did push last turn with Stewart's brigade, and you can see a couple of those guys got disrupted as well. Brown also has retreated, so I've had these guys retreat to try and recover some morale. Going to do the same thing with Stewart. And then Jones will try and reorganize and hit some of these salient points here of the Union. But yeah, my aggressive attacks, which, you know, the Confederates are sort of racing against the clock here, because if the whole Union Army activates, then they'll outnumber the Confederates. But if the Confederates can smash the first corps before the rest of the Union Army can figure out what's going on, that'll give them an advantage. And so I pushed aggressively with the Confederates, and probably too aggressively, because, you know, you can see there's a number of shaken, and especially up here, if you see Wood's brigade, like these guys, I've completely withdrawn from the fight so I can try and rebuild them, because they got pretty well shattered taking on Lyle's brigade here. And you know, these guys are a little better quality with better weapons than the left flank. You know, there's a 2 and a 3 there, but you've also got this 10th Ohio. They're a 5. I mean, these guys are good. You got a 4 here as well with the 3rd Ohio, and they're big as well. They've got, you know, a 10 firing with regular muskets is typically going to do some damage to the Confederates, and they definitely did. But the Confederates are still pushing them. The Confederates have they had somebody taking that spot, the Lyle, or Lytle, rather, not Lyle, his brigade, the 10th Ohio here, did fire combat and chased the guys out of here, probably this unit, maybe. So, because this is worth victory points every turn for whoever's sitting on it. So the Confederates obviously want to try and occupy that as quickly as possible. So the terrain is very difficult in this. I'm not super familiar with the Battle of Perryville. I played the old Gamers Brigade series, Battle of Perryville there, a number of years ago. And I remember the split Union Army, essentially. I remember that being, an issue that's dealt with in that game as well, obviously. But I didn't really remember the terrain very well. This is a little different scale than the Brigade series, and that this is basically regimental as opposed to Brigade. It's, the brigades are still organized by brigade, but you've got different regiments instead of just a couple of counters representing a brigade like you do in the old CWB series. But the terrain here, very difficult for the Confederates to get in position, especially their artillery. Has a tough time finding places that aren't too close to the Union line. You almost have to push the Union back. This would be a good artillery position here, but you have to get that Union line pushed back in order to engage, in order to deploy your artillery there. And they have a tough time just moving up because there's no roads through these woods here. And in this game, artillery can't move through woods unless they're on a road. So it's difficult. And then it's difficult just to deploy troops as well because there's no... You can see some trails here, but there's a number of the Confederates started over here, had to cross the river through the woods, up steep slopes. It just takes them a long time to get in position. That's why these guys from Donelson's brigade are still sitting back here. So difficult terrain for the Confederates to move through initially, and then to attack along. You can see lots of stone fences. These provide bonuses for defense against fire combat and close combat. So, and then, there's a number of good hill positions. This Starkweather Hill itself is one of the highest points on the battlefield. So it's a good artillery position. So this is a good position for the Union to try and defend, if they can get their quality units up there or their units that are at least armed properly to repel the Confederate assaults. So that's where it's at. After 3 turns, I'm enjoying the system. It had been a number of years since I played it. The only one I've played Longstreet Attacks and Stonewall's Sword in the blind sword system. So this is the 3rd time I've played, but it had been a couple of years since I played, so I had to refresh myself on the system. Which, again, similar to what I said about the Most Fearful Sacrifice, the modified blind swords. I think it's called the Black Swan system or something like that. It's a scary looking combat results table here, but it's actually a pretty well designed system in that the die rolls that you make, you're not making a lot of die rolls. You're doing your combat and then your resolution, and they both work the same. Your CRT tells you what cohesion test table you're going to roll on, and then you roll dice, and it works the same way. You get a red die and a white die, and you look at your results. So it moves pretty quickly once you're used to it. Movement rules are fairly simple. There are the exclusive rules here. It seems like there's a lot, but it's mainly, I've looked in this book mainly because the line of sight examples are in this book, so I've looked at this book a lot. But it's not like a burdensome amount of exclusive rules for this battle. So I'm enjoying it so far. It is a battle that, again, I'm not super familiar with, so it's been interesting to see how the battle unfolds at this point, where you're trying to use the bulk of the Confederate forces to smash the Union First Corps before the Union Army can get its stuff together and provide a counterattack. And even once they do start releasing these brigades, you don't want to feed them in piecemeal. You want to kind of assemble them and then either drive this direction, where you can see there's some victory point hexes, drive towards Perryville, to try and get around on the Confederate flank, or just try and smash in, to, if you can get a couple of brigades lined up against a single brigade here, you force the Confederates to respond, and then you can try and counterattack with hopefully some remaining strong units of the Union First Corps. But it just depends. If the First Corps starts to dissolve, the Confederates will then line up on this flank, and then that sort of, limits the Union's options, because then they'll have to confront the bulk of the Confederate forces over here, as opposed to trying to drive this way, because that would leave their left flank open to a Confederate counterattack. So, and there's other victory point positions too here that the Union don't want to give up, like the crossroads, and then back here towards their end of the battlefield. So there's things that the Union has to do to get in position to do, so they can't just haul off willy-nilly towards Perryville. So yeah, we'll see where it goes and see what happens.